There was a moment in history when a conquering king entered Babylon without shedding a single drop of blood, and instead of enslaving the defeated, he gave them back their gods. That man was Cyrus the Great. And what he built in the 6th century BCE was something the world wouldn't attempt again for millennia, an empire that ruled without erasing the identities of those it governed. At its peak, Persia was the largest civilization the ancient world had ever seen. From the Indus River to the eastern Mediterranean, from the Caucasus to the sands of Egypt, the Achaemenid Empire held together dozens of peoples, languages, religions, and traditions under one roof, and it sustained them rather than crushing them. That legacy, etched in clay 25 centuries ago, still echoes today as an unanswered question. What happens when a nation drifts away from what made it great? But before we begin, I'd like to ask you to leave a like and subscribe so this family can keep growing. Hello, curious minds. Get ready. This is going to change the way you see the past. Welcome to Discovered History. In 539 BCE, Persian forces surrounded Babylon, the most powerful city in the known world. Fortified, wealthy, protected by the Euphrates River and the arrogance of its king, Nabonidus, who had alienated his own people by disrespecting the god Marduk. When Cyrus arrived, many Babylonians didn't resist. They welcomed him as a liberator. What Cyrus did next changed the course of civilization. Instead of looting temples, he ordered them restored. Instead of deporting populations, he let them remain in their homelands. The Jewish exiles, who had lived in captivity for decades after Nebuchadnezzar destroyed Jerusalem, were allowed to return and rebuild their temple. This decision is recorded in the book of Ezra in the Old Testament, where Cyrus is called the Lord's Anointed, an extraordinary title for a pagan king. The Cyrus Cylinder, discovered in Babylon in 1879 and now housed in the British Museum, documents his policies in cuneiform: religious freedom, the return of displaced peoples, and the rebuilding of sanctuaries. Some modern historians call it the first human rights document in history. Others argue it was also a pragmatic strategy to legitimize power. Both views are valid, and both point to the same central truth. Cyrus understood that an empire that respected its subjects was more stable than one that ruled through fear. The administrative system built by the Achaemenids was a masterpiece of political engineering. Darius I, Cyrus's successor, divided the empire into 20 satrapies, provinces governed by local rulers who answered to the king but operated with significant autonomy. Each region paid tribute, supplied troops, and followed imperial law, but kept its own customs, language, and religious traditions. Egyptians continued worshipping Amun. Babylonians honored Marduk. Jews followed Yahweh. Persian Zoroastrianism coexisted with all of them without trying to eliminate any. Darius built Persepolis, the ceremonial capital, as a symbol of this integration. Its stone reliefs, still astonishing archaeologists today, depict representatives from across the empire: Nubians, Lydians, Armenians, Indians, Scythians, each distinct in clothing, posture, and identity, all bringing offerings to the king, not as humiliated slaves, but as recognized peoples within a larger order. The royal road, stretching over 1,500 miles from Susa to Sardis, wasn't just a military asset, it was a communication and trade network that connected cultures that otherwise would never have met. In practice, the Persians created the first infrastructure of ancient globalization. And yet today, that world has an air that looks into the mirror and doesn't recognize itself. The Islamic Republic of Iran occupies the same land as the Persian Empire. It shares the language, Farsi, the mountains, deserts, and rivers. But the political system built after the 1979 revolution represents, in almost every fundamental way, a reversal of the principles that made Persia remarkable. This contrast isn't cosmetic, it's structural. Where Cyrus ruled through diversity, the Islamic Republic is built on ideological uniformity. Its 1979 constitution established the doctrine of velayat-e-faqih, the guardianship of the Islamic jurist, concentrating ultimate authority in the supreme leader, a Shiite cleric whose interpretation of Islamic law is considered final. This system has no precedent in pre-Islamic Persian history and little in classical Islamic political tradition. Since 1989, Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei has exercised direct control over the military, judiciary, state media, and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the most powerful force in the country. Elections exist, but candidates are pre-screened by the Guardian Council, ensuring that no fundamentally dissenting voice can reach power. The contrast with the Achaemenid system is more than historical, it's almost ironic. Religious minorities in modern Iran face a reality that Cyrus would have likely found unrecognizable. The Baha'is, the most persecuted religious minority, are officially labeled heretics. Their faith, born in Persia in the 19th century, is illegal. Their leaders have been executed, their property confiscated, their children, at times, barred from higher education. These abuses have been documented by Amnesty International, the UN Human Rights Committee, and numerous global organizations. Iranian Jews, one of the oldest continuous Jewish communities in the world, are officially recognized and even represented in parliament. Yet, they live under the shadow of a state whose foreign policy includes denying Israel's right to exist. The distinction between foreign policy and internal safety is real, but fragile. Kurds, Baluchis, Arabs in Khuzestan, and Sunni communities across the country all experience varying levels of cultural, political, and economic restriction, standing in stark contrast to the pluralism that once defined the empire that ruled this same land. In September 2022, a young Iranian Kurdish woman, Mahsa Amini, died in custody after being arrested for allegedly wearing her hijab improperly. Her death sparked the largest protests Iran had seen in decades. The movement that emerged rallied around three words: woman, life, freedom. What surfaced wasn't just a dispute over dress codes, it was a deeper, long-building tension between a state that defines national identity in strictly Islamic and Shiite terms, and a society that is far more diverse, complex, and contradictory than that image allows. Over 500 people were killed, according to human rights groups. Thousands were arrested. The government called it a foreign conspiracy. The protesters described something else: exhaustion of living in a system that demands they be less than what they are. From Washington, this story has been interpreted in a very particular way. Since 1979, U.S.-Iran relations have been among the most complex and symbolic in foreign policy. The hostage crisis, 444 days of American diplomats held in Tehran, became a defining trauma. Sanctions, military contingency plans, and support for Israel against Iran's nuclear ambitions dominate the narrative. But this focus often obscures a deeper dimension. The civilization Iran inherited helped shape principles that modern liberal democracies claim as their own: pluralism, rule of law, protection of minorities, governance based on law rather than arbitrary power. Cyrus wasn't a democrat in the modern sense, but he understood something many modern regimes have forgotten. Lasting stability comes from inclusion, not exclusion. The Cyrus Cylinder was gifted in replica to the United Nations in 1971 during celebrations marking 2,500 years of the Persian Empire under Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. It was a statement, Iran as heir to a legacy of political humanism. 8 years later, that narrative was replaced by a very different one. The question of what Iran truly is, and has been, is not just academic. It's the core of a national identity crisis unfolding in real time. Some Iranians see Shiite Islam as the essence of their identity. Others find it in pre-Islamic traditions, Nowruz, Hafez, Rumi, the ruins of Persepolis. Some believe both are inseparable, and others simply want to live without the state telling them who they must be. All these versions of Iran coexist, clash, and overlap. The current system tries to resolve that tension by imposing a single answer. Persian history suggests that any single answer comes at a cost. Cyrus didn't build the greatest empire of the ancient world by ruling as king of the Persians against everyone else. He built it by being king of everyone, including those who weren't Persian. At the time, that distinction may have seemed small. In the long run, it proved to be everything. What happened in Tehran's streets in 2022? What unfolds in nuclear negotiations in Vienna? What happens inside prison cells where political detainees await uncertain trials? These cannot be understood as geopolitics alone. They are also echoes of a conversation that began 2,500 years ago. What kind of civilization does a people choose to be? And what truly binds human beings together within a shared space? Cyrus gave one answer. The clay cylinder that recorded it has survived for 2,500 years. The answers being written today on that same land have not yet faced that test. Remember to subscribe to the channel, leave us a like, and share the video with other history fans. You can activate the notification bell so you don't miss the upcoming videos we'll be releasing about surprising events or ancient civilizations that shaped the world we live in today. Thank you for staying until the end. And remember, here, we don't just tell history, we relive it together.